Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Hurricane Ian, now a dangerous Category 4 storm. Residents making last-minute preparations as government officials warn of the dangers to come.
In some areas, there will be catastrophic flooding and life-threatening storm surge.
We'll look at how Floridians are getting ready for this major hurricane. A prophetic sign in Israel. These red heifers sent from Texas could be a step on the path to the return of the Messiah.
Once we have the red heifer, we'll be completely pure and we'll be able to rebuild the temple.
We'll hear how these particular heifers could play a key role in end-time prophecy. Famed lawyer and legal scholar Alan Dershowitz has paid a price for his principles, and he worries about the lack of unity in America and the dangers of what he calls the totalitarian mindset of the hard left.
This is perhaps the worst that I've ever seen.
And Fox News anchor Ainsley Earhardt telling CBN Studio 5 about her new book, Written for Your Children.
So I wrote this book because my mom always told us on our birthdays, "I'm so glad you were born."
We'll hear her advice to parents and what she says about the role of Christianity in raising your children. All those stories and more today on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin this half hour with a threat from Hurricane Ian, packing winds of 140 miles an hour. The storm set to strike Florida today. Along the state's west coast, conditions are getting worse as residents rush to board up their homes and to flee. And thousands already lost power hours before the full force of the storm has even arrived. Charlene Aaron has our report.
A dangerous Category 4 storm as it approaches Florida's west coast. High winds and rain already starting to impact the state. Ian now delivering its first blow hours before it's expected to make a direct hit as a major hurricane. Residents making last-minute preparations to board up their homes and miles of cars on the roads as residents seek to escape ahead of the monster storm.
We have about 2.5 million Floridians that are currently under some type of an evacuation order.
St. Petersburg mayor warning those staying behind.
After a certain time when tropical force winds are here, we will not be sending out first responders.
Ian is now forecast to make landfall Wednesday afternoon in the Fort Myers area. Life-threatening conditions are expected, including several feet of storm surge and more than 20 inches of rain in some areas.
In some areas, there will be catastrophic flooding and life-threatening storm surge.
The state now bracing for millions of power outages. 30,000 workers are on standby to restore electricity after the storm passes. 7,000 National Guard members already activated under the state of emergency.
It could be everything from security to transportation. Aviation is a big part if we end up in search and rescue kind of scenarios. So, we're kind of the Swiss Army knife of operations. We can be used for whatever the Department of Emergency Management needs us to do.
Meanwhile, parts of Georgia and South Carolina are preparing for the storm. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has declared a state of emergency with 500 National Guard troops on standby. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
CBN News' Brody Carter is on the ground in Tampa. Brody, Ian is now just shy of a Category 5 storm. What are you seeing out there?
Well, right now, this is just kind of the beginning of it. It keeps coming in waves. At one moment in time, just 5 minutes ago, it was nice and quiet, almost too quiet, eerily quiet. But then it starts to come in, and it's really swirling. You can feel those bands of rain really falling here in the city of Tampa Bay, overlooking the Hillsborough River. We're not too far away from Tampa Bay University. This is Davis Island, where Tampa General Hospital is. And if you see behind me, these are some skyscrapers right now that are completely blacked out. That's because those people are heeding that warning to get out of the city. That's because of the excessive flooding, that surge that's expected to bring, 10 to 12 feet of rain is what's being forecasted. Rather, in the surge, that's not on top of 15 inches of rain that's expected in addition to the flood surge. So, yeah, this is kind of an eerie situation to be standing here. I'm 6 foot tall, add another 4 to 6 feet, and that's what this area is going to be facing.
Amazing. We saw the drastic measures people are taking to prepare for this hurricane in Charlene's report. What have you seen?
Yeah, really the preparation, Ephraim, has just been a storm in and of itself. Yesterday, we were running around trying to scavenge for these provisions, food, water, gasoline, hopeful to find a place to stay for many people coming from the West Coast to Orlando, which is about an hour and a half east of where we're standing right now. That's where my hotel is at. That's where the chaos was, because the city pretty much has moved inland, seeking shelter, seeking that safety, looking for water and gasoline. But guess what? It's all running out. That water is hard to find. We stopped at 4 or 5 gas stations just to find regular gasoline to fill up. So it's been a chaotic situation, and the worst is yet to come.
I can imagine. The hurricane brings a number of dangers with it. What kind of warnings and threats are the people of Florida facing?
Yeah, most definitely. Right now, you're seeing the excessive rain that's falling down. This is nothing in comparison to what this area is going to be pelted with. By about 2 o'clock is when Ian is expected to make landfall here in Tampa Bay. So right now, they're just battening down the hatches. And to believe it or not, behind me, there are a couple of lights on in the residential facility right across the way. So people are going to weather this storm. And like you said, we are flirting with a Category 5 hurricane. Probably not the best idea. So Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, that they have enough provisions to get through this. But to answer your question, other dangerous scenarios would be the life-threatening flood surge that could be coming to this area, 10 to 12 feet, upwards of 15 inches of rain. That wind could be creating the possibility of tornadoes throughout the state. So stick with us here at CBN as we continue coverage. Ephraim?
Absolutely. CBN's Brody Carter on the ground in Tampa, Florida. Stay safe. Thank you so much for being out there to cover this terrible storm for us. I want to turn now to the Middle East, where a recent delivery from Texas to Israel is causing quite a stir, mainly due to the cargo of fire-red heifers. As Chris Mitchell reports now from Jerusalem, talk is growing that their arrival is prophetic and a prerequisite for the return of the Messiah.
These are the red heifers that landed at Israel's Ben Gurion Airport. Rabbis believe the ashes of a red heifer are necessary for purifying priests to serve in a future temple. The heifers were discovered and brought to Israel with the help of the Bonei Israel Building Israel organization and its team leader, Byron Stinson. Rabbis from the Temple Mount Institute approached Stinson about the unique cattle.
They said, Byron, could you look in Texas and find us a red heifer? I wasn't expecting that, and it was shocking to me to think about it, but I know a lot of ranchers, and I know a little bit about cattle, being from Texas. And I always say yes to these Jewish rabbis because they're my friends, and I love them, and why not?
This began an in-depth process of finding the rare heifer that meets key stipulations found in the Bible.
The Bible gives us a clue as to the significance of the red heifers here in Numbers chapter 19, verse 1 and 2, where it says that God spoke to Moses and Aaron saying, "This is the ritual law that God has commanded, instruct the children of Israel to bring you a red cow without blemish, in which there is no defect, and on which no yoke has been laid." So it says that we're supposed to take a perfectly red cow with no white hairs or dark hairs at all, and a cow that no yoke has ever been on. So as a result, it's very, very rare to find a baby cow that is completely red.
The ashes of the red heifer would be used to purify water from the Gihon spring in the city of David. Just a few ashes could purify thousands of gallons of water. That water can be then purify priests from any contact with a dead body, so they can offer sacrifice in the temple.
Some Jews go every single day to a ritual bath, to a mikveh, in order to approach God in prayer in purity. However, it is not the same because we don't have the red heifer. Once we have the red heifer, we'll be completely pure and we'll be able to rebuild the temple.
The red heifer must also be 2 years old. These cattle are just around a year old and could qualify in just over a year.
So if they're able to make it without growing the white hairs or black hairs, I think with 5 of them we have a really good chance of that. Then they will be the first one in 2,000 years.
The Jewish sage Maimonides from the 12th century said throughout the first and second temples there were 9 red heifers. He said the 10th would signal the appearance of the Messiah. That's why many are excited about this arrival. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, he's been an attorney for criminals like O.J. Simpson and Jeffrey Epstein. Then he got canceled defending someone else. Alan Dershowitz tells us who caused him to get blacklisted. We're going to hear how he's paid the price for standing by his principles when we come back. The long arm of cancel culture is reaching beyond conservatives. Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz has felt the full force. He's paid a high price for defending former President Donald Trump and for calling out the political left. CBN's Gary Lane spoke with him about the consequences of choosing principle over partisanship.
Alan Dershowitz is known as a defender of notorious newsmakers, including O.J. Simpson and Jeffrey Epstein. But it's another client that caused prominent liberals, friends, and even some family members to reject him. The noted lawyer's defense of Donald Trump during impeachment.
The Constitution provides only 4 grounds for impeachment: treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. They didn't charge him with that. They didn't charge him with any kind of criminal type or like behavior. They charged him with abuse of power and obstruction of Congress that are unconstitutional. So, of course, I would defend him.
And for that, Dershowitz says he's paid a high price. He details the experience in his latest book, his 50th, The Price of Principle, Why Integrity is Worth the Consequences. Dershowitz writes that today in America, partisan advocacy masquerades as principled argument. He contends hypocrisy and a far-left agenda elevate identity over principle. Once accepted by his community, the former Harvard law professor isn't getting invitations to return to venues like New York's Temple Emmanuel and the 92nd Street Y. Dershowitz says even the public library has banned his books, and he's no longer welcome at most social gatherings.
It's been both personal and institutional. Personal. I was seated next to Caroline Kennedy, the daughter of the former president, at a dinner party, and she said, if I knew you had been invited, I wouldn't have come. This is the ambassador to Australia, who's supposed to be able to be in the same room with leaders of foreign countries, who won't be in the same room with a man who showed a profile in courage, to paraphrase her father's a book.
Friends and acquaintances have also rejected his family members.
My wife worked out in the gym and somebody walked in and said, oh, that's Alan Dershowitz's wife. We can't be in the same room with that person. Larry David came over to me while I was trying to have lunch and started screaming at me and yelling, you're disgusting, because I patted Mike Pompeo on the back. He's my former student, congratulating him for the Abraham Accords.
He says several lawyers have shared they won't defend President Trump because they don't want to be Dershowitzed. They don't want to be treated like him. Despite the rejection, Dershowitz still defends Donald Trump when warranted. Although he believes the feds have the evidence to indict Trump for possessing classified U.S. government documents, he predicts the former president will not be indicted. How about the FBI's recent raid on Trump's Mar-a-Lago home and the search for and seizure of classified documents? Was that justified, legal in your opinion?
It was not. They should have persisted on their subpoena. They could have enforced the subpoena in court and made President Trump turn over the 15 or so boxes. But instead, they decided to engage in a very widespread search, which also involved the seizure of not only classified material, but lawyer-client privilege material, executive privilege material, and probably declassified material.
And Dershowitz says that means Justice Department lawyers are now examining Trump's private information.
Imagine what would happen if one of the Justice Department lawyers on the Taint team read an email that said lawyer-client privilege, absolutely privileged, confidential, but it had some really juicy stuff about Trump that would destroy his chance of ever winning the presidency again. Do you think that wouldn't get leaked? Does anybody in the world believe that that would remain confidential?
Although Dershowitz believes Trump's rights have been repeatedly violated, that won't lead him to vote for Trump if he gains the Republican nomination for president in 2024. Instead, Dershowitz would vote for Joe Biden again.
I was a strong supporter of Biden because I thought he could help unite the country. He's a compromiser by nature. It hasn't happened. I've been a little disappointed. I'm still going to vote for him again if he runs and is healthy. But nonetheless, I'm disappointed that he hasn't done a better job in uniting the country.
And that disappointment leads to a deep concern whether America can overcome its bitter partisan divide and return to national unity.
This is perhaps the worst that I've ever seen. And the danger is the hard left is so intolerant and so totalitarian in its mindset. And they're the teachers of our future leaders. And so I worry much more about the totalitarian mindset of the hard left than I do about the totalitarian mindset of the hard right. We've been through this before during the McCarthy period, during the anti-Vietnam period, and we've gotten back.
For Alan Dershowitz, it may take more critical thinkers, people of integrity, and Americans choosing principle over partisanship. Gary Lane, CBN News.
The name of the book is The Power of Principle, and you can find it wherever books are sold. Still ahead, our Studio 5 conversation with Fox and Friends anchor Ainsley Earhardt about her new book written for your children. It's called I'm So Glad You Were Born, and she'll share what she has to say about that and raising your children as Christians right after this. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. She is one of the anchors you wake up to on Fox News, but she's also a best-selling author. And her latest book is written for your children. We're sitting down with Ainsley Earhardt to chat about I'm So Glad You Were Born, celebrating who you are. Let me begin by asking, how's motherhood going?
I love it. It's just such a great joy. It is a wonderful blessing. But I prayed and prayed for a child, and so I just am so blessed to have her, and just grateful to God that He gave me this amazing little girl.
And she helped to inspire this latest children's book?
We just have a lot of fun together. She loves being with me. Yesterday was Chuck E. Cheese and Chick-fil-A, and then we went swimming in the pool, and then watched a movie together. She's just my little buddy. And so that's what this book is about. I'm so glad you were born. You have enhanced my world, and God is going to use you to do big things. And I think about, this is the book. I think about all the little children that, are in homes where they don't hear that message. They don't hear, I'm so glad you were born, or they don't know the Lord, or they want to be loved and they're never hugged or never kissed or never danced with in their houses. And it could be the parents don't have time because they're trying to make money to put food on the table. Whatever the case may be, I want children to read this book and just know that God has a plan for their lives and that we are all so glad they were born.
Absolutely. Is that a message you heard growing up that you were?
I did.
Yeah, tell me about that, hearing that.
So I wrote this book because my mom always told us on our birthdays, I'm so glad you were born. And when I got to Fox News, I would say that on air with my co-anchors when it was their birthdays, or if I was interviewing someone and it was their birthdays, I would say, I'm so glad you were born. And the first time I said it, when I got the job on Fox and Friends, Steve Busey was my co-anchor, and I said, Steve, I'm so glad you were born. And he just started laughing, and everyone on set started laughing. I said, I know it sounds funny, but think about it. It's your birthday. We are so grateful and glad that you were born. And so then I would say that all the time, and now my co-anchors say it whenever we're talking to someone on their birthday. And Steve's wife text messaged him during the middle of our show one day and said, Ainsley's next children's book needs to be I'm So Glad You Were Born. And so I thought, that's such a great idea. So we did that, and here we go.
What are you hoping parents take away? Because naturally for many of these kids, it'll be their parents reading it to them.
I think for parents, just a reminder of we get caught up in the craziness of the day or the stressfulness of our lives or whatever we're going through, the pandemic, the inflation, or just it's stressful raising children, especially at the end of the day when you've worked all day and you're trying to come home and put food on the table and do homework and put them to bed. And that's a long process. And be a good Christian and read them Christian books and say prayers. It's an extremely long day for a mom or a dad. And so this is just a reminder to take a pause, to breathe, and to have fun through life and enjoy this season. And a lady told me when I was pregnant, I was on the elevator with her, and she said, I'm telling you something, the good and the bad, just remember it is all a season. The good, unfortunately, will change, but the bad is just a season too, and it's just a blip. You can get through it. So I think it's just a reminder just to sit down and realize how special our children are and how we only have them for basically 18 years to teach them and to groom them into being good stewards of our society and to be good people.
Ainsley Earhardt's children's book, I'm So Glad You Were Born, Celebrating Who You Are, is available right now wherever books are sold. Tonight on Studio 5, we have actor and youth pastor Kel Mitchell, recording artist Ellie Holcomb, and a look back at the life and legacy of an acting legend, Sidney Poitier. You can catch Studio 5 on the CBN News Channel at 8:30 Eastern. You can also find it on the CBN News app. Coming up, remembering the remarkable life of a man known as God's smuggler, Brother Andrew, who smuggled Bibles into communist countries. We're going to hear his story when we come back. Please stay with us. Christian world is mourning the death of a legend. The man known to Christians around the world as Brother Andrew was responsible for smuggling Bibles into communist countries, and he died Tuesday at the age of 94. His Dutch name was Andrew van der Bijl. He founded Open Doors USA and first gained attention in 1967 with the publishing of the book God's Smuggler. The book was written by evangelical journalists John and Elizabeth Sherrill and published under the missionary's code name Brother Andrew. It is sold more than 10 million copies and was translated into 35 languages. It is still in print. If you want to buy it, you can find it on Amazon. In it, he told of how he smuggled Bibles in his Volkswagen Beetle into countries right under the noses of unsuspecting border guards. And he had many other amazing stories of smuggling Bibles into communist nations throughout his life. You can find out more about Brother Andrew's remarkable life at cbnnews.com. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is hear. Forget what you've heard. Faith comes by hearing. This is the time to hear his voice. Silence the noise of your past and what you've heard before. Hear from him, listen to his word, and watch your faith grow. Not from what you are seeing, but from what you are hearing. With that word, make this a wonderful Wednesday. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time as well as online, cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us. The address is right there at the bottom of your screen. It's newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We certainly would love to hear from you. I encourage you to make today a wonderful Wednesday and join us right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody. God bless, and thank you so much for watching.